First team ban in the Brawl Stars Championships. Players like Luffy could get banned if they don't make this one change, and a lot of unliked rule updates coming to the future of BSC and Brawl Cup. Hi, my name is Kaishu and I'll be going through the latest news in Brawl Esports right here, right now. Let's start with some good news. In between the second semi-finals and the finals of a monthly qualifiers, there will now be a 15-minute break. Previously, it was about a 10-minute break, and that just didn't feel very unfair for the team that had just finished that second semi-finals and were going into grand finals. They needed an extra 5 minutes just to reset, go through strategies and actually be mentally prepared to go into it. It just felt very unfair, and I'm really glad they made this change. It also gives a chance for some more statistics and even some gameplay analysis like they did last time. And I think it's just really good to give them an extra bit of break. Now let's go on to some other changes that are going to come into Brawl Cup, which are kind of on the fence of being good and bad for Brawl Esports. Some new changes are coming to Brawl Cup this May. Let's start with the prize pools. I think they might have got a little buff. That's because we're going from 1 million prize pool last year to 2 million. So I think all the places got a slight buff, with first place getting a chance of $35,000, second place $15,000, and third and fourth sitting around $8,000, which is actually really good for the top 4 teams. Now, that's not the problem. The problem is the point distribution. First place gets 70 points, second get 50, third and fourth get 40, fifth to 8th get 30, 9th to 12th get 20 points. Now some people are on the fence of whether this is a good change or unnecessary change. On the bright side, it rewards the teams that have done well in Brawl Cup and gives them a higher chance of qualifying for World Finals, which I actually support. I like that. On the other hand, it also means that other good teams in the region who might have missed out by a few points will have an even harder time making it to World Finals if their region only has 2 qualification places. However, there's a few things we need to consider here. First of all, the summer sprint for some reason has a 1.5 times point multiplier. Imagine your team wins in February, they gain 90 points. However, in the summer sprint, instead of earning 90 points, they get an extra 50%, meaning they earn 135 points. Why? Couldn't tell you why, but it's a thing, and this is probably going to help them in case they do miss out on a summer monthly final wins or like a top 2. And I think that's a good thing because it encourages the teams that have done well in Brawl Cup and tried to bring World Finals and LCQ places back to their region. It gives them a chance to prove themselves again in the World Finals. Is this too much points? I don't think so. It's a bit weird why they're doing it, but I can also see why. It's just encouraging these better teams to make it, and I think it's mostly because Crazy Raccoon last year had to struggle through LCQ to get to World Finals, even though they were sitting around top 2 last year. And now those teams that do well inside the Brawl Cup will do well in the next three monthlies and will make it to World Finals more than likely. The other big change that I think we're all aware of in esports is the Challengers. As of right now, the only information I can kind of gather with the time as well is that there'll be about 12 different regions. You'll be able to compete in LAN tournaments to fight for one of the challenger spots to make it to LCQ. So if you're doing the Spain one, you need 2 teammates that are Spanish, and then the other one can be a wild card. You'll fight in that region. If you're the best in your region, you will go to Istanbul, Turkey for the Challengers final, where you'll compete against the other 11 teams or however many teams, and that'll give you a chance to make it to LCQ. It's a 1 guaranteed LCQ spot, which is actually pretty good. It gives you a chance, if you don't do well in the Brawl Stars Championships, to try this new event. And I like that. It's given a chance to the people who are really good but are just struggling to make monthlies. However, it turns on its head when you realize that the bigger teams can also compete in Challengers, and teams like Humble and Foot from EMEA are looking to compete in these, as well as these smaller teams that want a chance at LCQ. In my opinion, I don't actually like that. I can see why they'll do that for practice and just another chance if somehow, I don't know how it would happen, but if their run goes bad in EMEA in terms of Humble and Foot, very much doubt it looking at where they are compared to 3rd and 4th. But if it did so happen, they could decide to focus on the Challengers, go through LCQ and then try and qualify for World Finals that way. However, I just think I think that any teams that have made it to the top 8 and made it to the monthly finals in their region at least once in the last 3 months, they shouldn't be able to qualify for challenges. I think that should be exclusive to teams that are just struggling to make it to the top 8, maybe even top 16 in their region. I don't think it's fair to put these smaller teams against the big dogs, because LCQ is the in quotations smaller teams that didn't make it but are equally or close to as good as the big dogs making it to world finals. Hopefully that made sense, and that's just my opinion. Of course, other people will say that these big teams, fine, they can compete, I'm just saying that it just feels a little unfair. Now obviously, if the team make it to the Istanbul finals, they have to decide if they're still in the monthly. So let's just take Humble and Foot. If they're still like number 1 and 2 in EMEA, they have to either forfeit their EMEA spot to go for the Challengers, or forfeit the Challenger spot to stay on the EMEA path. So I guess in that sense, but think about like the 6 to like 16 teams they would have knocked out in the way that could have equally had a chance to make it to the Challengers final. It's a lot, and I want to cover it more. It's still very fresh, so I don't want to make any quotes, any speculations now, but let's just see how it goes. That's my opinion. Hopefully I haven't offended anyone, and we'll move on to the next point, which is where we get to one of the bigger, one of the slightly bigger changes coming to the upcoming monthly finals. Now, in a new section that was updated, I think on the 2nd of April, they said that you can no longer wear any headwear that could potentially cover or restrict your face, preventing any valid identification. Essentially, if you're wearing a hat, you probably can't wear it because they want to verify that you are you. So people like Luffy, which is like the immediate one that struck out to me, may not be able to wear a hat because they might not be able to identify themselves, because there might be another better player like taking their place. Obviously this is very, very unlikely, especially from Luffy, but you never know with like the smaller teams that make it through, because this comes to the next point. WWL have been banned from the Brawl Stars Championships in 2026, completely banned, won't be returning until March 2027. Now there's this whole report going through, but it looks like that they couldn't identify themselves, whether that was they had someone else impersonating them in a monthly finals, or they just didn't have the valid ID, like maybe someone was underage or just didn't have some form of ID. Either way, they are now officially banned. All 3 of their members are banned. The whole organization is in a bit of shambles, which is quite unfortunate from the Korean side, because they played pretty well in February but couldn't make it to March. But BSC have had to make this punishment, but they've also said to any other teams that they should step forward now before they could get a severe punishment. And that's basically all the changes coming to BSC Brawl Cup in the next few weeks, months. Very little things, but I just thought I might share them and update them. I'm going to try and update them more in the coming weeks, because there'll be new information, and Brawl Cup is basically on the horizon after this April monthlies, and I'll be able to get more data and more understanding of these teams that could qualify for Brawl Cup, and I'll try and make some predictions about it, about who I think will win Brawl Cup, because it's very, very close. Right now, I would say it's between Humble and Foot from EMEA and Zeta and Crazy Raccoon from East Asia. I honestly can't see any team from North America or South America making it. From North America, if I had to choose one, it would be only Relum, because they have Sans, Bobby and Patchy, who are 3 brilliant old timers essentially, who have made it to so many different tournaments in different ways. South America is probably Team Electros, New Heights Gaming. Between them two, personally, I'm not deciding between the two until I see them play in this monthly finals. But those are my rough guesses. I'll do maybe some pre-predictions later on. So that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you learned a little bit from the esports side, and I'll see you all soon, Sproutlings. Bye.